Welcome in. What's Right with Nick Wright, episode 324 on NFL Draft Day. Now, obviously, we're in the middle of a amazing first round of the NBA playoffs. Every series in the West tied at one game apiece, except for the series in the West that really doesn't need to be happening in the Thunder and the Grizzlies. Eastern Conference Series, Knicks, Pistons, good. The other ones, probably not, but we can get to them as well. However, today is really an NFL day, and I think the NBA did as good of a job as it could have with setting up tonight's schedule, acknowledging that, yeah, people are going to be focused on the NFL by choosing the games and the time of those games that they did. If you don't know the NBA schedule tonight, Knicks Pistons at 7 o'clock, that's a good one. I maybe wish that was yesterday if it could have been, but so be it. Thunder Grizzlies at 9:30, totally irrelevant. And then Nuggets Clippers at 10. Now, it's weird that Nuggets Clippers is an NBA TV game and Thunder Grizzlies is the TNT game, but set that aside. What that will allow for is the NFL draft to end, and you, if you're a single screening, and which, why would you do that unless you're obligated to? But if you are, you can then flip over to the end of what has been an awesome series in Nuggets Clippers. Also, by the way, a little self-promotion here. We are doing something incredibly ambitious and what should be, hopefully, fingers crossed, very cool on the TV show today. And so we've never done anything quite like it. It is going to be potentially difficult to pull off. I don't want to spoil what it is, but if you're a fan of First Things First or even just an occasional viewer, this is one that I would ask you to watch at 3 o'clock and see if you stick around for the whole show, because it's not going to be, I don't think consuming it in clip form is going to do justice what we're doing today in relation to the NFL draft. Seemed like I got Damonza's interest peaked there. Damonza's I'd say a pretty loyal First Things First viewer.
I was about to say, I'm watching throughout the weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, so that should be good. Damonza, great to see you.
Good to see you, Pops.
Ton to do today. Also, by the way, this is a great time of year to subscribe to the YouTube feed or iTunes or Spotify. And again, I don't really know why, but giving us ratings really helps. I really care more about subscriptions than ratings, but if you're subscribed already and you haven't rated the show, that the 5 stars does help. But here's why it's a good time of year. We've done a pod every day this week because we have been, the way the NBA playoffs have been going, we've been reacting to it. We might do the rare weekend pod depending on how Lakers, Timberwolves, and Warriors, Rockets goes. And so those should be good. And so you'll get the update if we go live, or you'll get the update when we're on the air if you're subscribed. But let's get to the show. Here's what missed the cut. Jalen Brunson wins Clutch Player of the Year. LeBron should have. I didn't know this. The UFC's in Kansas City this weekend? I had no idea. And the Cavs win Game 2 against the Heat in a game that had moments of, are the Heat going to pull this off? And then Donovan Mitchell, a little personal 8-0 run at the end of that game. A hilarious Kenny Atkinson challenge after Tyler Hero tried to flop his way into some free throws. So that's what missed the cut. Damonza, before we get to the draft, huge game in Houston last night in your kind of adopted, claimed hometown. The Rockets get the win. Go ahead.
Rockets got the dub against a somewhat depleted Warriors team last night. Jimmy Butler obviously went down. I think Pods was dealing with a stomach flu thing. You called this a must-win, and you also picked the Rockets in this series. Do you think the Rockets figured something out, or do you think this is more credit to the Warriors having some injuries/sicknesses over there?
So I think the Rockets, even if Jimmy Butler didn't get hurt, we're going to win that game. Now, Jimmy Butler's health could go a long way in determining who's going to win that series, because the Rockets, as evidenced by last night, are not a deep team. They played a guy last night who I will admit, and I had never seen play in the NBA. And the only reason I knew who he was because he's one of the greatest lacrosse players of all time in Pat Spencer. So, and I mean, he, by the way, was really good for them off the bench, gave them 12 decent minutes, made 5 shots. I want to talk about the Jimmy Butler injury to start with. Damonza, did you think that was a dirty play by Amen Thompson?
I did not. I didn't think it was dirty. I didn't think it was dirty. Daniel said he might have gotten pushed a little bit into Jimmy there. But
I didn't think it was dirty either. Yeah. I thought it was, you could argue, a little reckless, but I think the recklessness started with Draymond. I think Draymond gave him a little shove. He then went maybe trying to sell the shove, flailing, and Jimmy was the victim of it. But I did not at all think that was... Now, if you remember, in our series preview, I said, and Rockets fans got super pissed at me, I said, you got to watch out for Dillon Brooks. He might undercut you. He might hurt somebody. And then this obviously wasn't Dillon Brooks. This was Amen Thompson. But that, to me, was not an intentional undercut. It was a unfortunate undercut, and that was a hard damn fall for Jimmy Butler. And obviously, I can't prove that even if Jimmy played, the Rockets were going to win that game. But unless you think, and maybe you would have, that Jimmy was going to shut down Jalen Green, the reason the Rockets won that game was because Jalen Green had one of the best games of his life. In fact, to be honest, I understand he's had bigger scoring nights in the regular season.
Playoffs.
Given the stakes, given it that it's his first playoffs, it was the best game of his life. And Jalen Green, he's a unique player because he's number 2 pick of the draft 4 years ago. And in his second year, Damonza, he was 22 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists on 42% from the field, 34% from 3. That was in year 2. 22, 4 and 4 on 42, 34. In year 4, he is 22, 4 and 4 on 32, 34. The Jalen Green angst is, why hasn't he gotten better? You know what I mean? Like, if he was that guy in year 2, now you can argue he got better because he was doing that for a bad team. Now he's doing that for a good team. And where he deserves massive credit is 82 games played last year, 82 games played this year. So he's super available. I think one of only 6 guys to play all 82 this year. But you'd like to see him become a better shooter. You'd like to see him, the game evolve a bit. But when he goes off, this Rockets team can beat anybody because defensively they're just monsters. And Amen Thompson got in foul trouble again. Dillon Brooks got in foul trouble. And Steph still struggled mightily because if Jimmy's not out there, and this is where his loss was really felt, the defense can just be like, all right, we are top locking Steph. We are following Steph. We are just not going to let Steph kill us. And who else can score? Draymond Green with his second consecutive triple single, with 5 turnovers to go along with it, and didn't have great defense and didn't take this was the other noteworthy thing for Draymond, didn't take a single shot inside the 3-point line.
I think he had his first points in the third quarter or something like that.
I'll trust you on that. I mean, listen, he only had 6 points. I mean, or 8 points because he made a couple free throws. But Draymond's impact was not really felt. All of a sudden, they're playing. I mean, the Warriors played, even if you remove the garbage time minutes of Key, Knox, and Trace Jackson Davis, they played 12 guys. They played 15 guys in the game when you include the garbage time.
They put Kuminga in there. They threw Kuminga in there. It was probably because of the Jimmy Butler thing. I was curious if they were going to try throwing him in the mix if it got sour on him.
They did put Kuminga in there. Listen, Kuminga lost his spot to Jimmy Butler, essentially. Like that they just want. So that's why when Jimmy went out, they put him in almost immediately. And Kuminga kind of reminded you why Steve Kerr doesn't really want to play him. Jonathan Kuminga in 26 minutes took 12 shots. Jonathan Kuminga was very active and looking for his offense, inefficient, and not that great anywhere else. And now listen, you feel for him because he's rusty, so I'm not going to kill him on not being super efficient offensively. But when you get put on ice because they want you to rebound and defend, and you get 26 minutes for an undersized team and you come away with 3 rebounds and you make kind of some boneheaded plays, you just kind of got the feeling this is the frustration. Pods being, what was they said, food poisoning? Yeah. I mean, Pods played 14 minutes, Damonza. 0 points, 0 rebounds, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, 0 turnovers, 0 fouls, 5 missed threes. Or, I'm sorry, 5 missed shots, 2 missed threes. So Pods was not really available, and the team's just too thin to deal with those types of losses. So what does this mean for the series? I thought the Warriors could be in trouble to begin with. I think they are in significant trouble if Jimmy has to miss even just a game or two. Because if, let's just say Jimmy misses both games in Golden State, now you're probably best case scenario coming back to Houston tied 2-2, staring at we're going to have to win a game 7 and on the road. And listen, we saw Steph win a game 7 on the road in Sacramento a couple of years ago with a 50-point game. Now, that was a very different team. That was a team that relied on its offense and its shooting. This team relies on its physicality. But I think the Warriors are going to be fighting a major uphill battle against either the Timberwolves or more likely the Lakers in round 2. And if this series is a 7-game physical war, I just don't think you're going to end up seeing the best of the Warriors in round 2 if they get there. Here's the other concerning point, I think, for Golden State. Fred VanVleet can't be worse. Fred VanVleet in this series is 6 for 27 from the field, 3 for 20 from 3, and they got the split. And so if Fred VanVleet, who has been historically not like a dominant, but a good postseason performer, is in his final 2 years in Toronto, he's 16 a game, 36% from 3, 7 assists. Like, if Fred VanVleet just stops being terrible, that's another offensive option for the Rockets. And now Jalen Green, yesterday was such a huge game for Jalen Green because when you've never played in the playoffs, when you're that young and you're bad in game 1, if you're bad in game 2, all of a sudden you just might be in your head the rest of the series. Might be like, oh man, I'm not coming through. But now not only was he not bad in game 2, he was great in game 2. And so he's going to be feeling good. And I just don't love you watch the Warriors and it's like, man, Buddy Hield's prominently involved. He couldn't get on the court for the Sixers in the playoffs last year. Gary Payton's prominently involved. He really hasn't been the exact same since, sadly, Dylan Brooks broke his elbow a few years ago. He doesn't want to shoot. They don't. Kerr is grasping at straws a bit, and without Jimmy, I think you are in real, real trouble. And so I think that the Rockets were likely going to win last night, even if Jimmy didn't get hurt. But I think that if Jimmy misses time, I don't know what
They're cooked.
I don't know what answers the Warriors can have. Go ahead.
They're cooked. Yeah, I mean, it was just without Jimmy, they're not enough options.
Here's the bright side. Because I know there's some people that are Warriors fans and then there's some people that are just Steph Curry fans. we all know the rules as they've always been with Steph Curry. When he's awesome and or when they win, we start talking about him being better than Magic Johnson. Is this the Steph Curry era? Does he belong in the GOAT conversation? And when they lose in round one or miss the playoffs or anything like that, we just move along to the next thing. So Steph is not going to be under massive scrutiny about why he couldn't carry them past round one against a Rockets team that had no all-stars and no guys that was considered an overrated 2 or an overseeded team at 2. Like, don't worry, folks. The sports media apparatus will have his back, and there will not be any referendums on what this means for Steph Curry. What'd you say?
You think he's supposed to be able to do that right now? Lead that team and, just even without Jimmy, just overpower the young Rockets team?
Do I think he should? No.
Yes. Okay.
But I don't think he belongs within a country mile of the GOAT conversation either. Do I think he should? No. But I don't think he's, firmly in the top 10 all time. I think he's right on the outside. And listen, Steph is an unbelievable player and is having one of the 3 greatest old guy seasons ever right now, this moment. But what I am saying is, folks that want to foist him into those conversations that I think are just a touch rich for his blood, you don't have to worry about those folks being intellectually consistent and holding him to those types of standards. You don't. You don't have to worry that 37-year-old Steph Curry is going to get the same flack that 38-year-old LeBron James got when his co-star got hurt in round 1 and they lost to a young upstart Phoenix Suns team when LeBron's team was a couple years removed from the title. You don't have to worry about that. And that's nice. It's a nice, peaceful way to be able to be a fan of an athlete, that you don't have to worry that any type of bad luck or just didn't quite have enough is going to end up being a retroactive referendum on their place in history. It's a constant, only win, can't lose situation. And I imagine it's delightful. And so that's all I'm saying. I won't be, because I thought the Rockets, even if Jimmy Butler were healthy, were the better team. And so it won't be coming from me. I'm just saying it's nice to know it's not going to be coming from anybody. We want to talk about Draymond for a minute.
Yeah, I was about to say, especially if Jimmy ends up being out, but even if Jimmy ends up coming back, do you think that Draymond's going to be even more unhinged throughout the rest of this series?
So Draymond yesterday was bordering on losing it. And Steve Kerr, and I love Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr did a whole woe is Draymond because the fans were chanting F you Draymond. And I wish they wouldn't do that. Maybe I'm old school. What about the kids? That would resonate more with me if Draymond wasn't asking them to do it louder, and if Draymond hadn't 2 days ago taken credit for Karl Anthony Towns' good game 1. I knew that would make you mad, Damonza.
That was terrible.
The lack of shame when it comes to him and Karl Anthony Towns, juxtaposed with Karl Anthony Towns being very open and honest and vulnerable about all the losses he's suffered in his life, and us then finding out that the latest game that Towns missed, that Draymond said he was afraid of playing Jimmy or whatever he said. I think it was Jimmy.
Yeah, it was Jimmy.
It was because he was at another funeral, and then Draymond saying, I lit a fire under him or whatever it was. Draymond asks for this he wants to be the villain. That's fine. But then cry me a river about the fans in Houston not liking him and using a little profanity. But I thought Draymond was flailing about. Draymond is going to try to get in it with the Rockets. But here's the difference. There's like 4 guys on the Rockets that could get into a real scuffle or altercation with Draymond Green. Dylan Brooks could. Amen Thompson could. Steven Adams could. Tari Eason could. I don't think Jalen Green's... I don't think that's his flavor. Any of those guys, the Rockets would be like, okay, throw them both out.
Right.
Throw out Draymond and dealer's choice on our guy. Şengün's not gonna take the bait, and Draymond's gonna target Şengün because the other thing we know about Draymond is he likes, he has a type of center that he thinks he can intimidate, and in my experience, it is Rudy Gobert from France, Domantas Sabonis from... Where's Sabonis from? Is it Serbia? Somebody right... I forget where Sabonis is from. His dad is Yugoslavian, but that's not a country anymore. My apologies. Sabonis technically is from America, but because his dad was playing here. Who am I forgetting? Steven Adams from New Zealand. And Şengün from Turkey, like he likes to
mess with Jokic
is it Lithuania? Maybe I was wrong about this Yugoslavia thing. No, Vlade's from Yugoslavia. Bad job by me. I think Draymond's on a knife's edge. And it was noteworthy to me that after the scuffle last night, Kerr didn't wave the white flag. Kerr was still playing Steph Curry, but he took Draymond out. So it wasn't like we're taking the starters out. It was, no, we just don't want Draymond to
get himself thrown out.
To get thrown out of the game. All right, so let's move on to the Celtics. And remember, everybody, like, rate, subscribe, review. We'll answer some of your listener questions from the chat later in the show if you're watching live. We can go on to your Celtics.
So no Tatum, no problem. Took care of business last night, beat the Orlando Magic in Game 2. Thanks to Jaylen Brown. Porzingis actually got a forehead contusion, whatever you want to call it. Got elbowed in the head, gushing blood. Mazzulla came out and said, I like watching him bleed on the court. I think that's important.
Mazzulla's such a nutcase.
So what was your biggest takeaway from the Celtics going up 2-0?
Jaylen Brown's knee looked healthy.
Knee looked healthy, and you need to Tatum get that hand on ice, man. The game, it was pretty close. It's the Magic.
Right. That's the... Well, hold on. What do you mean? You mean the game was too close for comfort for you?
I think that it's just... Because I feel like Jason Tatum gets a lot of disrespect. You saw what they looked like against Orlando Magic last night without Jason Tatum. And if they're looking like that against the Magic, what's it going to look like around 2 whenever we start to progress out the...
So I agree with that. That I think that... I don't think they need Tatum to beat the Magic.
No.
I do think they need Tatum. I think they need Tatum in round 2 against the Knicks. And I know they need Tatum.
Tatum, and we can have anybody else gone. It just cannot be Tatum in round 2.
So I agree with you. So with that said, I would sit Tatum, and we'll get Jaylen Brown in a second. I would sit Tatum game 3. Even if he's like, I'm fine. Be like, no, we'll sit you game 3. If we go up 3-0, you know what I mean? They're going to quit Orlando. Then it's over. So then you can, do what you want. Now, if you lose game 3 and you've sat Tatum precautionary wise, then get him back in for game 4. But I don't think Tatum should play the next game either. I thought the Jaylen Brown game was important because Jaylen Brown, since getting banged up, he hurt his knee, I think, in the Suns game back on April 4th. Since then, he played 20 minutes against the Wizards, scored 16 points, played 20 minutes against the Knicks, scored 6 points, didn't play in the remainder of their regular season games, and then played 30 minutes in game 1 and scored 16 points. And it was like, oh, how big of an issue is this knee going to be? Seeing him play 42 minutes, every time the Magic made a run, he kind of answered, having 36 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists. That to me was the story. That because the Celtics need him. They are going to need Tatum and Brown both fully go by round 3. I don't think they need them both full 100% to win round 1, certainly, and probably not even to win round 2 with how shaky the Knicks look. But I do think that the Cavs are for real, and obviously whomever comes out of the West is for real. Honest question, Damonza, before we move on to the Magic side of this.
Okay.
Because you feel like Tatum gets a little too much disrespect, was there a part of you that wanted the Magic to win last night?
There was no part of me that wanted the Magic to win last night, but I was kind of thinking in my head as I was watching the game, and they would like cut to the Tatum ISOs or whatever. He was probably enjoying, I don't want to say enjoying it somewhat, and I don't want to put this on his character, but like,
you want to feel
it's
needed.
Probably good that it was close, and yeah, 100%.
Right. He would. I don't think it would have felt great for him if the Celtics won by 34.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
and so
100%.
I
think it played in his favor.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of people are always like questioning what he means to the team. But go ahead.
Well, right, and so and this is where I get into it with Wilds on the show, where I just basically tell Wilds he's got to pick a lane that he wants to rep with the Celtics. You can rep the Jason Tatum is underrated if they win the championship this year, and he's 4-time first-team All-NBA, 2-time champion, best player on the team both years, all before he turns 28. We need to start putting him in some real historical conversations. You can have that lane, or you can have there is not another team in the league whose third best player would even start for the Celtics. And, we have the best roster, and we have the 6th man of the year, and our 7th man's Al Horford. And where I give Wilds a hard time is I tell him, I'm like, you're trying to argue both cases. Right. Tatum's wildly disrespected, and the roster is perfect. Like, the second thing there leads to the first because people have so much respect. So I try to tell Wilds, I'm like, if you really are all in on Tatum being an all-time great, you actually low-key need to be like, Drew Holiday, overrated. Like what? You need to like
find with a dunk last night.
Right. You need to like poke some holes in the who was Kristaps Porzingis really before he got to play with Jason Tatum? Like, and so 100%. Kristaps, by the way, this Celtics team, the reminder for how scary the Celtics can be, or the thing the thing you have to remember for how scary the Celtics can be is that they went on that run last year getting almost nothing from Kristaps throughout the playoffs. That he got hurt in round 1 and didn't play up, in
he was like
the second round or the third round, and then had say it again, sorry.
I think it was just like game 1 of the finals, and then he was gone.
Correct.
Or maybe game 1 and 2.
No, so he played game 1 and 2, and then a little in game 5. So you've got it right. Game 1 was the game he checked in and couldn't miss.
Yeah.
But they went on basically that playoff run, getting nothing from him. And that's unfair because he was awesome in that game 1. But he is such a X factor for them and difference maker. And so, listen, Celtics are really scary. And I think the Celtics, I think the best sign of how much people respect the Celtics is how little respect we are giving to the Cavs. And by that I mean, like, nobody is really, even though the Cavs won 64 games, they are a very well-rounded team. They would have home court advantage over the Celtics in the conference finals. I haven't heard anybody be like, ooh, how do the Thunder or the Clippers or the Lakers or the Warriors match up against the Cavs in the finals? Yes. Everyone is just like, how does everyone match up against Boston? And so the Celtics are, and that was a great win yesterday because Orlando scores 100 points. That's a big deal for them. And so they got to 100, and for the Celtics to be able to get to 109 against that defense without Tatum being involved is really impressive. What's our follow-up here?
What does Paolo need to make the leap next year? The same type of leap that Cade did this year.
Just got to become a better three-point shooter. That's really it. Does everything. Paolo's gotten better every single year. His rebounding's gone up every year. His assists jumped in year 2, dropped a little this year. It's fine. His scoring from 2020 to 22 to 26. His efficiency is 45% shooter, 32% from 3. If you can just get that to 36% from 3, then you're 28 a game. Then you're like that. It just adds another element. So that's really it. I think Paolo's excellent. Now, I said yesterday on the show that I think he's, his destiny is probably best player on a good team, second best player on a championship caliber team. Like, I don't know that he can jump that final level to jump is damn hard. And so but I'm really impressed by Paolo. I like him a lot. I like him a lot. All right, let's do a couple quick previews before we get to our draft stuff.
Yeah, so you said this Nuggets-Clippers series was going to be super tightly contested and just going to be a great series overall. Kawhi is obviously coming off the really good game the other day. These teams play tonight in Los Angeles. Who do you have?
Tonight, I do like the Clippers. I picked Nuggets in 7, so I think it goes back to Denver 2-2. But I am very curious what the Intuit Dome is going to be like. And I'm curious. I'm looking it up right now with our friends at SeatGeek. Code Wright10, get 10% off. Free plug. I guess not a free plug, but regardless. I'm curious what tickets are like at the Intuit Dome compared to at Staples. Okay, so they are
slightly cheaper.
No, they are much cheaper.
Oh, okay.
But I just kind of feel like sitting in that. There are no seats available in the wall. The wall is the wall. Maybe that's just for season ticket holders or whatever it is. But there's. That was a great job by Ballmer. Those were, his foresight on build this arena, give us a real home court. I think was really smart, and it's paid off. And listen, they bet on the fact that Harden was going to be worth the contract they gave him, and that Kawhi wasn't cooked. And throughout the majority of this year, I thought it was a bad bet because Kawhi missed like the first 30 games, and then when he came back, he was a 20-point-a-game guy, if that. I think 17-point-a-game guy. But now, since March 1st, he's been unbelievable. And I am, Michael Porter Jr. saying he has the shoulder sprain, that one concerns me a bit. And I just think this is hard-fought series where I expect it's not yet late enough in the series for me to just really bank on James Harden having a playoff James Harden moment. I think that I think he'll be fine today. I do worry that if Michael Porter Jr. is banged up, it's going to be a lot of Russell Westbrook And I think that is potentially bad for Denver. But I think Joker's a little worn down. And I think I do like the Clippers tonight. What follow-ups do we have?
With how you've hyped up the series, if Jokic ended up losing this round to the Clippers, would it be a huge knock on him in your book?
No, I do not think it would be a huge knock on him. What I do think is this. I think that going out last year in round 2 to a team that was not a championship caliber team and blowing that game 7 lead at home. And then if they were to go out this year in round 1 in a series they had a home court advantage, where game 2 you can say part of the reason they lost was because Jokic didn't play very well. What I think is it could, depending on what happens with the rest of the playoffs, open the door for the best player alive conversation to start up again. Like Jokic has sealed that door shut, where it is just consensus clear he's the best player in the league. You have back-to-back early playoff exits against team now, especially if the Clippers then get popped in round 2. Like, that's the other thing. It's one thing, we got a tough draw. We played the champs in round 1. Last year, you didn't have a tough draw. You played Minnesota, who lost to the team that then lost to the team. If you lose to the Clippers and they go on to win the championship, that's one thing. You lose to the Clippers and they end up getting waxed in round 2 and 5 or 6. That's something else. It also matters how well you play. Like, Joker was good in game 1, and I thought was not good in game 2. And I thought the foul baiting was bad, the flopping, the turnovers. Now, I still think the Nuggets are going to win this series, and I'm not going to kill him if they lose it. But I do think that it could reopen the door on that conversation, just like Giannis having a tough round 2 loss followed by a round 1 loss opened the door and Joker stormed through it. Now, who would storm through it? Am I really going to say Shea is the best player in the world? Probably not. Like, I got to see what happens, but do I actually think in my bones Shea is better than Joker? I don't. Could Luka storm through it? If they win the title, Damonza's shaking his head. What if the Lakers win the title?
Yeah.
The Lakers win the title. Luka could have a claim to it.
Yeah. That's fair.
Could Tatum be like, what about me? Like, yeah.
Tatum, Luka, Ant.
Yes. Okay. Ant. Sure. If they were to win the title, fair is fair. Yes. If the Timberwolves were to win the title, then Ant would probably have to be the best player in the world for them to do it, because I don't think they have a championship 100%. Caliber roster. I mean, to that note, I guess Cade Cunningham. Like, what if the Pistons win the title? Like, just give it to him. So again, I'm not even saying he would lose the title. I'm just saying the door would be open. And people, you would now be allowed to submit names for consideration, so to speak. Also, Daniel, you can tell me in the chat, what's up with your interim coach whining about the Clippers piping in crowd noise? You guys, I don't want to hear anything from Nuggets folks complaining about unfair home court advantage when you guys get to play on the moon. It's
fair enough, actually. Fair enough.
So, Daniel saying learn to breathe. I mean, give me a break. All right, let's quickly get to these other previews before we get to the draft stuff.
The Knicks are coming off that upset in Game 2 against Detroit the other day, a few days ago, I should say. So they're back tonight. They're playing in Detroit. It's going to be Detroit's first playoff home game since 2019. How nervous should Knicks fans be right now?
Nervous. Like, I have overreacted to every game of this series, to be fair. But now I think the Knicks just have to feel like, let's just get it. Let's just be 2-2 coming back to New York. Like, just find a way to get a split. And because right now, it's fair to say they have been outplayed for 7 of the 8 quarters in this series. That they had the one amazing rally, 21-0 run, an all-time run, in the fourth quarter of game 1. And I know this is not breaking news to anyone, but you just worry, are these guys going to wear down a bit? Let me just pull it up real quick. With the minutes that these guys are already playing. Now, I understand they're young guys. I get it. I understand that Tibbs doesn't want to hear it, and you can argue Tibbs basically calloused them by how he plays them in the regular season. I get all that, but when you are... Jalen Brunson has played 42 minutes per game. OG has played 44 minutes per game. Josh Hart, Karl Anthony Towns, and Mikal Bridges all at 35 minutes per game. Got to feel fresh. And so you try to see if you can get a little more out of Mitchell Robinson. I've never been a campaign guy. He did play well in that first game. And the Pistons just right now do feel deeper. The Knicks are more talented, but the Pistons feel deeper.
You can't have that mindset. Like, let's get back to New York 2-2. I think you got to go in there and show them who's boss.
You're saying get back to New York 3-1. And what I'm saying is
100%.
What I'm saying is you better be careful you don't go back to New York 1-3
without 2 players. Oh, okay, fair.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I have totally overreacted to this. I'm not giving great analysis on this series. I will be honest with you. I'm being emotional about it. I think it's part of going to the game and live betting the game and still feeling a little bitten by it. All right, let's do a few follow-ups here.
Do you expect a pretty similar foul baity type of game from Brunson?
Yeah. It's just how he plays.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's always done that. It's not new.
Correct. He's an excellent player, but he's got some jabroni elements to his game. And now, listen, maybe that's what he has to do because of his size, and he is skilled at it, but fair is fair. I don't like Trae Young doing it. I don't like him doing it. I like Jalen. I like his dad a lot. I think he's your mom at this point, one of her 3 or 4 favorite players in the league. Your mom just now claims she's a Knicks fan.
Wow.
She's like, I live here. I love going to the... Oh, sorry. I just rolled over Dexter's paw. Sorry, buddy.
Party foul,
He's sitting
man.
right here. Sorry, pal. You guys, how good of a boy is he being, though? You guys didn't even know he was here.
Yeah, right. And right by you, too, at that. Not jumping on you or none of that.
I'm sorry, buddy. So yeah, your mom's a Knicks fan now.
All right. I mean, that's fair. I feel like that's because when we were living in Houston, I feel like she was a Rockets fan. So she's just where she is.
Just adopts the team of where she's at. And listen, I want the Knicks to win this series. I really want to be able to go to Knicks Celtics in the Garden. I think that would be a ton of fun. But fair is fair. Like, Brunson is flopping all around the place in ways that I don't really love. All right, do we have anything else on this series we want to
do? Yeah, so is Detroit playing with house money here, or do you think that they still have something to prove?
Both. They are playing with house money, but I think that they are... Like, this was a good season, a great season already, no matter what. But I think at this point, they're like, hey, we can win.
Push it to
Like,
the limit. Yeah.
It's one thing if you're not supposed, you had no expectation going into the season, you overachieve, you get to the playoffs, and it's like, okay, we're outclassed. You know what I mean? But a good year. But that's not what's happened.
Right.
Now they're like, we're not only are we in this, maybe we're better. Maybe we have the best player on the court. In Cade, we're the deeper team. You know, all of that. And so that's where they're at. And then also, you can ask this last follow-up. I don't remember this story.
Dude,
so I don't.
Are you scared of Knicks fans coming up to you in the bodega again after your Knicks takes today?
I'm sure that happened. I don't remember talking about it. That is, oh wow, they got me with the hot Cheetos. And
do not serve as brew. Is that brew?
No, that's not brew. That's Jim Dolan. That's the owner of the Knicks. That's super funny that you thought that was brew just because of the color of the hair and the goatee. Yeah. No, that's the owner of the Knicks. That's super funny. It's a reason to watch us on YouTube. All right, let's do a little Lakers Timberwolves before we get to the draft.
Yeah, so thanks to their defense, the Lakers evened up that series the other day. So they play again Friday. And J.J. Redick might have schemed some nice stuff here and said after the game the defense was confusing and something he hadn't seen. So you talked yesterday on an emergency pod and said that LeBron would be whatever the Lakers needed him to be. What do you think that's going to be tomorrow?
Probably going to have to score a little more than he did in game 1 or game 2. But I think mostly, and by score a little more, it really just means hit a couple open shots. LeBron is 18 for his last 68 from 3, I think. And that is, you guys have heard me say this 100 times. I'll say it again. LeBron never shoots his average from 3. And by that I mean, if he shot 38% this year, you're not going to find a month he shot 38%. You're going to find months where he shot 45% and then months where he shot 27% and it evens out. He goes on these hot and cold streaks from 3. Right now he's on a cold streak. But I think him being the head of the snake defensively is what they need from him. The guy who I actually think they need more from offensively is Austin Reeves. Luka's been awesome, man. And Luka game 2, like you've got to adjust your eyes to what some of these stat lines mean within the context of the game. So Luka in game 2 having 31, 12, and 9 in a game that the team scores 94 points.
It's responsible for 70% of the points.
Right. It's just remarkable. So it's just like Steph in game 1 scoring 31 when they scored 95. Kawhi in game 2 scoring 39 when they only score 105. Those are big time numbers. Yeah. Like big outputs. I've said for years that I think, and this is part of his legend, and it's a deserved part of his legend, that I think the greatest game Michael Jordan ever played was his final game with the Chicago Bulls. And that game, you see, he was 15 of 35 from the field. So it's not like he was hyper efficient. But Michael Jordan in that game, and again, the stat line's funny because it was 45 points, 1 rebound, 1 assist. But the reason I think that was the greatest game of his career was he scored 45 points. His team scored 87. So like that, and it was to win a championship, and he knew it was his final game. Just a remarkable performance. So you've got to always, it's also why I thought people were a little too critical of the stat line LeBron had offensively in game 2. 21, 11, and 7. They scored 94. And so I'm good with that. I also think Anthony Edwards was a little too honest. It's like, man, they had me frazzled. I haven't seen that. And so people have said, typically role players play better at home. Yeah. I'm curious the level of pressure or anxiety the Timberwolves feel going into this game 3, where
seems like they kind of laid down too. Yeah, 100%. But
yeah, I mean they were not ready to work the way they needed to work offensively. Let me say one other thing about Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards' last 10 playoff games, Damonza, 0 30-point games. 30-point games. His previous 12 playoff games before that, 8 30-point games, 4 40-point games.
Well, I mean, I don't think that's a sign of him tapering off or jumping off the deep end. That means it's just probably a 30-piece coming soon.
Maybe, yeah, but he needs to be more aggressive in driving to the basket on this Lakers team that doesn't have rim protection. And so, listen, I think the Lakers are going to win game 3. I think the Lakers will win game 3, pardon me, to go up 2-1. And I think it probably goes like this. Lakers win game 3. Timberwolves win game 4. Lakers win game 5 back in LA. And then the Lakers close them out in 6 in Minnesota. But I think it's 2-2 going back to LA. And so that's where I think we're at right now. All right. Time now for one of our favorite things we do every year. Nick Wright, GM consultant.
Yes, sir. So after finishing among the top mock drafters last year, NFL GMs know that you, Nick Wright, are the secret to nailing the draft. Once again, all 32 teams have your number and on deck and to call you tonight in case they can't make a final decision. So in the extremely likely scenario that some of them call you to weigh in on their pick and get them right, you need some practice. I'm going to play an NFL GM calling you with a dilemma, and you've basically got 60 seconds to convince me what I should do.
Okay. All right. So Damonza, if I have this right, is going to play different GMs for different teams. The first one, well, Damonza's just going to tell us, and I am playing myself. Easy roll for me. Damonza, oh, wow, there it is. Take it away.
Hey, Nick. It's the Jags GM, James Gladstone. We're picking an offensive player to help restore the prince to his throne. Will Campbell is off the board. Do we draft a weapon for Trevor Lawrence, or do we draft someone to protect Trevor Lawrence? 60 seconds, go.
All right, so if you're dead set on an offensive player, then this is an easy pick. You don't need to draft Mimbo. Probably it's not that it's too high for him, but you at the 5th pick, you want to be able to say you got the best player at a position. This is not a wide receiver draft. You had Brian Thomas Jr. last year. I thought you guys would go defense here, potentially Mason Graham out of Michigan. But if you're going offense, there's no question who you take. You take Ashton Genty. You take Ashton Genty at number 5. You then also call teams like, say, the Dallas Cowboys and see if they want to give you a mid-round pick for Travis Etienne, get more draft capital. But the answer is you take Ashton Genty if you're dead set on offense. That one was easy. I mean, again, I think they're probably going to go defense, but that one's easy. All right, who's next, Damonza?
It's Saints GM Mickey Loomis. Hey, don't say it, man. I'm going to fix the cap eventually. No, Cam Ward is the only quarterback taken, so we can pick the future face of our team. But the Giants are calling with a great offer to trade back into round 1. We don't really know what's going on with Carr, So now could be the time to take our cap medicine and retool for next year. Do we trade the pick to New York or do we draft a quarterback? 60 seconds.
Oh, this is very easy. You trade the pick to New York. However, you really need to squeeze Joe Schoen. Joe Schoen is terrified he's losing his job. Joe Schoen, because of that, does not care so much about future draft capital because he thinks it might not be his to deal with. So what you need to do is hang up on New York and tell them, hold on, you're getting another call, you got to call them back. And then you need to call them and say, wow, we just got an unbelievable offer for number 9. So what we're going to need is your second this year, that's obvious. But we're also going to need your first round pick next year, your third round pick next year, and a 5th this year. That's what you're going to need. And Joe Schoen, you know what he's going to say? He's going to say yes. Trade back, squeeze him. Take advantage of the desperate guy. He doesn't want to take his kids out of private school. He doesn't want to have to move. Take advantage if you're going to do that. And you'd be moving down 25 spots, Mickey. All right, who's next, Damonza?
Hey, Nick. It's Mike Tomlin with Pittsburgh. Our GM has given me the final decision. Ward is still the only quarterback off the board, so we can finally go with other options. However, Rodgers just called, begging us not to take a quarterback and sign him instead. Do we draft a quarterback or do we sign Aaron Rodgers? 60 seconds.
All right, well, what you should tell Aaron Rodgers is that, you respectfully and you appreciate him and no hard feelings, but you can't work on his timeline. He'll understand. It's what he told you guys already. I don't love Shador. However, at 21 and with the potential upside and with the fact that the Steelers are the one team that can, I think, deal with the potential, is Dion going to be the head coach noise better than anybody without it affecting their head coach because you're there, Mike Tomlin? I think you tell Aaron Rodgers to kick rocks. And I think you draft Shador Sanders and you try to move on to the next iteration of Steelers football. That's what I would do, Mike.
Okay.
You like that one? I also don't think you know how to use that phone, Mike.
Yeah, I do.
I think that's too old-timey of a phone. I think you were talking into the receiver. I think the whole thing. All right, who's next?
Nick, it's Brandon Beam from the Bills. Don't hang up, please. You're the best in the business, and we need you, man. We can go in any direction here at 30 or even trade back. What do we need to beat your Chiefs? 60 seconds, go.
All right, what I would recommend you do, Brandon Bean, in this draft, this is the real advice. In this draft, there is not a huge difference between players that are going to be taken at 20 and at 40. So you need to call up the Cleveland Browns and tell them, hey, man, heads up. We're getting a lot of calls of teams that want to move into our spot to get what's going on here.
Wait. We're getting a call. Your Chiefs are trying to trade up. Tell us what they're planning to do and if we should fall for this trap again. You know they've got.
Okay, obviously, Brandon Bean, hang up on the Chiefs. Just hang up on the Chiefs, Brandon. Yeah, there you go. You don't do business with the Chiefs. What you need to do is call the Browns and tell them someone's trying to move up to get Jackson Dart. You know they need a quarterback. Get an extra pick from the Browns, move back 4 spots. That's what you need to do. Now, sadly, that does probably mean the Chiefs will end up taking the player you wanted after you move back, but it's the prudent move. That's what you need to do. Great job. Great job, Brandon Bean. Yeah, no problem. So I enjoyed that game. I enjoy that game every single year. Before we get to listener questions, let me remind you guys, the NBA 82 game grind is done. Now the real fun has begun. The NBA playoffs are here. Time for all the high-stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw-dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through to the finals, now's the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory. All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props. That doesn't stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30, 40, or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Lock in your bets, and let's make this playoff run unforgettable. Here's something for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code WRIGHT. That's code WRIGHT, W-R-I-G-H-T, for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. All right, Damonza, let's go to some listener questions before we get out of here.
Curtis says, Damonza, if you could add either Jokic or Giannis to the Lakers, who would it be and why?
What's your answer?
My answer would be Giannis. I
Yeah.
put Jokic on that team. It's like a bunch of like savants on the same team, no athleticism.
Well,
need to put Giannis on there.
No athleticism seems a little harsh. LeBron James on the team, but the answer is Giannis. The answer is Giannis without question, and it's for the defense and for all of it. But listen, the Lakers, Giannis could be on the move this summer.
Yeah.
But the Lakers wouldn't be involved in that. But the answer for what the Lakers need, it'd be Giannis. All right, next.
Ronnie asks, Nick, were you as disgusted as I that LeBron finished 7th in Clutch Player of the Year?
Listen. The fact that only one of the 100 voters voted him first is just such a joke. It's not worth getting bent out of shape over, but it's a farce.
Where should he be on there?
I mean, I thought he should have won it. But it certainly shouldn't have been the runaway that it was, and it shouldn't have been that he came in 7th. But go ahead.
Liam asks, is the GOAT the best ever player of the best ever career? Find it weird how people chop and change between definitions without clearly stating it.
Well, you're correct there that it's kind of it depends on what you value, I guess. Now, I happen to think that in the NBA, they're the same. It's the same guy. I think the best player ever is LeBron James, and I think he's had the best career ever. I think that is not always, like in football, the best career ever is Tom Brady. But if Patrick Mahomes, has 3 more years at this level, he won't have the career as Brady, but he'll be the best player ever. And so, it depends on what you want. I think it's nice and clean how in basketball it's the same guy. And here's the other thing. On the basketball GOAT debate, you can argue that Jordan was the best player. You can't argue he had the best career. You can argue LeBron was the best player, and he very clearly has had the best career. But we don't have to do that right now. All right, next.
Scott asks, how many O-line guys did the Chiefs draft? Over or under 2.5? I think it should be over. What do you think?
Oh, my guess is it's probably 2. So I would take slight under. But a lot of those late round picks, it just sees how it falls. All right, next.
Jay, for the teams that are uncertain at quarterback or are spending too much money on them, like the Dolphins and the Niners, should they have been in on getting and developing Joe Milton?
I would have thought the Dolphins with Joe Milton would be more interesting than the Cowboys when they have Dak there. I don't understand the Cowboys' fascination in trading mid-round picks for guys that they hope to never play. They did it with Trey Lance, and then they did it with Joe Milton. All right, enjoy the draft tonight. again, reminder, check out First Things First today. It's going to be a ton of fun. Like, rate, subscribe, review, do all that. It really does help us out. We appreciate all you guys watching. What's Right?